हेलो माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, कैसे हैं आप लोग। उम्मीद करती हूँ आप सब अच्छे होंगे। चैप्टर नंबर 23, ट्रिक्स्टर्स, फ्रॉम द बुक थीफ, रिटन बाय मार्कस ड्यूजैक। दोस्तों, आप लोग मुझे ज़रूर से सजेस्ट करिए कि कौन सी बुक मुझे पढ़नी चाहिए इसके बाद, या फिर ऐसा थ्रिलर टाइप या एडवेंचरस, ऐसा जो भी है, फैंटेसी, मुझे आप ज़रूर से कमेंट करके बताइएगा। इससे मुझे थोड़ी हेल्प एंड सपोर्ट हो जाएगा। और बुक का नाम भी मेंशन ज़रूर करिएगा। थैंक यू वेरी मच। Tricksters. You could argue that Liesel Miminger had it easy. She did have it easy compared to Max Vandenberg. Certainly, her brother practically died in her arms. Her mother abandoned her, but anything was better than being a Jew. In the time leading up to Mac's arrival, another washing customer was lost. This time was the Weingartners. The obligatory sim fan occurred in the kitchen, and Liesel composed herself with the fact that there were still two left, and even better, on the one of them was the mayor, the wife, the books. As for Liegel's other activities, she was still causing havoc with Rudy's Tina. I would even suggest that they were polishing their wicked ways. They made a few more journeys with Arthur Berg and his friends, keen to prove their worth and extend their thieving repertoire. They took potatoes from one farm, onions from another. Their biggest victory, however, they performed alone. As witnessed earlier, one of the benefits of walking through town was the prospect of finding things on the ground. Another was noticing people, or more importantly, the same people doing identical things week after week. A boy from school, Otto Stum, was one such person. Every Friday afternoon, he rode his bike to church, carrying goods to the priest. For a month, they watched him as good weather turned to bad, and Rudy, in practical, was determined that one Friday in an abnormally frosty week in October, Otto wouldn't quite make it. All those priests, Rudy explained as they walked through town, they were all too fat anyway. They could do without a feed for a week or two. Liesel could only agree. First of all, she wasn't Catholic. Secondly, she was pretty hungry herself, as always. She was carrying the washing. Rudy was carrying 2 buckets of cold water, or as he put it, 2 buckets of future ice. Just before 2 o'clock, he went to work. Without any hesitation, he poured the water onto the road in the exact position where Otto would pedal around the corner. Liesel had to admit it. There was a small portion of guilt at first, but the plan was perfect, or at least as close to perfect as it could be. As just after 2 o'clock every Friday, Otto's turn turned onto Munich Street with the produce in his front basket at the handlebars. On this particular Friday, that was as far as he could travel. The road was icy as it was, but Rudy put on the extra coat, barely able to contain a grin. It ran across his face like a sketch. Come on, he said, that bush there. After approximately 15 minutes, the diabolical plan bore its fruit. So to speak, Rudy pointed his finger into a gap into the bush. There he is. Otto came around the corner, dope as a lamp. He wasted no time in losing control of the bike, sliding across the ice and lying face down on the road. When he didn't move, Rudy looked at Liesel with alarm. Crucified Christ, he said, I think we might have killed him. He crept slowly out, removed the basket, and they made their getaway. Was he breathing? Liesel asked further down the street. Keen Ahung, Rudy said, clinging to the basket. He had no idea. From far down the hill, they watched an Otto stood up, scratched his head, scratched his crouch, and looked everywhere for the basket. Stupid skiff off, Rudy grinned, and they looked through the spoils, bread, broken eggs, and the big one. Speck. Rudy held the fatty ham to his nose and breathed it gloriously in. Beautiful. as tempting as it was to keep the victory to themselves. They were overpowered by a sense of loyalty to Arthur Berg. They made their way was to be impoverished lodging on Kempfstrasse and showed him the produce. Arthur couldn't hold back his approval. Who did you steal this from? It was Rudy who answered. Otto's chum. Well, he nodded. Whoever that is, I am grateful to him. He walked inside and returned with a bread knife, frying pan, and a jacket, and the three thieves walked the hallway of apartments. Well, we will get the others, Arthur Berg stated as they made it outside. We might be criminals, but we are not totally immoral. Much like the book thief, he at least drew the line somewhere. A few more doors were knocked on. Names were called out to apartments from stress below, and soon the whole conglomerate of Arthur Berg's fruit stealing troop was on its way to the Ampo. In the clearing of the other side, a fire was lit and was left on the of the eggs was salvaged and fried. The bread and speck were cut with hands and knives. Every last piece of Otto's Chum's delivery was eaten. No priest in sight. It was only at the end that an argument developed regarding the basket. The majority of boys wanted to burn it. Fritz Hammer and Andy Smilker wanted to keep it, but Arthur Berg, showing his incongruous moral aptitude, had a better idea. You two, he said to Rudy and Liesel, maybe you should take it back to that Sturm character. I did say that poor bastard probably deserved that much. Oh, come. Oh, come on, Arthur. I don't want to hear it. Andy, Jesus Christ. He doesn't want to hear it either. The group laughed and Rudy Stinner picked up the basket. I will take it back and hang it on their letterbox. He had walked only 20 meters or so when the girl caught up. She would be home for too late for comfort, but she was well aware that she had to accompany Rudy Stinner through town to the Stern farm on the other side. For a long time they walked in silence. Do you feel bad? Leisurely finally asked. Leisure finally asked. They were already on the way home. About what? You know, of course I do, but I'm not hungry anymore, and I bet he is not hungry either. Don't think for a second that the priest would get food if there wasn't enough to go around at home. He just hit the ground so hard. Don't remind me, but Rudy Stinner couldn't resist smiling. In years to come, he would be a giver of bread, not a stealer, proof again of the contradictory human being. So much good, so much evil, just add water. 5 days after their bittersweet little victory, Arthur Berg emerged one last time and invited them on his next stealing project. They ran into him on Munich Street on the way home from school on a Wednesday. He was already in his Hitler Youth uniform. We are going again tomorrow afternoon. You interested? They couldn't help themselves. Where? The potato place. 24 hours later, Liesel and Rudy braved the wire fence again and filled their sack. The problem showed up as they made their getaway. Christ, shouted Arthur, the farmer. It was his next word. However, that frightened. He called it out as if he did already been attacked with it. His mouth ripped open. The word flew out, and the word was axe. Sure enough, when they turned around, the farmer was running at them, the weapon held aloft. The whole group ran from the fence line and made their way over. Rudy was the furthest away, caught up quickly, but not quickly enough to avoid being last. As he pulled his leg up, he became entangled. Hey, the sound of the stranded. The group stopped. Instinctively, Liesel ran back. Hurry up, Arthur called out. His voice was far away, as if he swallowed it before it excited his mouth. White sky, the others ran. Liesel arrived and started pulling at the fabric of his trousers. Rudy's eyes were open wide with fear. Quick, he said, he is coming. Far off, they could still hear the sound of deserting feet when an extra hand grabbed the wire and ripped it away from Rudy Stinner's trousers. A piece was left on the metallic knot, but the boy was able to escape. Now, move it, Arthur advised them not long before the farmer arrived, swearing and struggling for breath. The axe held on now with force to his leg. He called out the futile words of the robbed. I will have you arrested. I will find you. I will find out who you are. That was when Arthur Arthur Burke replied, "The name is Owens." He looked away, catching up to Liesel and Rudy. Jesus Owens, Jesse Owens. When they made it to safe ground, fighting to suck the air into their lungs, they sat down and Arthur Burke came over. Rudy wouldn't look at him. "It happened to all of us," Arthur said. Sensing the disappointments. Was he lying? He couldn't be sure, and they would never found out. A few weeks later, Arthur Burke moved to Cologne. They saw him once more. No one on one of Liegel's washing delivery rounds in all alleyway of Munich Street. He handed Liegel a brown paper bag containing a dozen chestnuts. He smiled. A contact in the roasting industry. After informing them of his departure, he managed to proffer a last pimply smile and to cuff each of them on the forehead. "Don't go eating all those things at once either," and they never saw Arthur Burke again. As for me, I can tell you that I most definitely saw him. A small tribute to Arthur Burke, a still living man. The Cologne sky was yellow and rotting, flaking at the edges. He sat propped against a wall with a child in his arms, his sister. When he stopped breathing, he stayed with her, and I could sense he would hold her for hours. There were 2 stolen apples in his pocket. This time they played smarter. They ate 1 chestnut each and sold the rest of them door to door. "If you have a few pfennig to spare," Liesel said to each house, "I have chestnuts." They ended up with 16 coins. Now grind Rudy revenge. The same afternoon, they returned to the Fraudeilles Hill, Hitler, and waited. Mixed lollies again, and she scumzelled, to which they nodded. The money splashed the corner, and Fraudeilles' smile fell slightly ajar. "Yes, Fraudeilles," they said in unison. "Mixed lollies, please." The framed Frauer looked proud of them. Triumph before the storm. यहाँ पे होता है हमारा चैप्टर नंबर 23 ख़त्म। मिलेंगे हम चैप्टर नंबर 24 में, द स्ट्रगलर कंक्लूडेड। यहाँ पे था द स्ट्रगलर कंटिन्यूड, ये वाला लेसन या कंटिन्यू 22 था, कंटिन्यू द स्ट्रगलर कंटिन्यूड, और 24 है द स्ट्रगलर कंक्लूडेड। हम मिलेंगे नेक्स्ट वीडियो में इंशाल्लाह ज़रूर। बाय फॉर नाउ, थैंक यू वेरी मच, बाय।